Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Commissioner Campbell, Dr. Becker, Director Mingy. Commissioner Marquardt is here also from the Department of Revenue. To each and every one of you, grateful that you're here. As you can see, Minnesota continues to be in a strong place. We put money into things that improve people's lives and build for the future. We created and passed middle-class tax cuts. We put millions into public safety. We've rebuilt our roads and infrastructure at a faster rate than we have in decades. We invested in making childcare cheaper and easier to access. We're assuring all Minnesotans can take time off with their families after they have a child. We removed lead lines from people's homes, and we enhanced our outdoor activities by rebuilding our parks and worked on our lakes. And we're feeding and educating our children. Proud of the work that we've done together, proud that we have once again made Minnesota a top state for raising children, for business, for healthcare, and many of the things that enhance the quality of life. We're in a good position. We weathered an economic storm as it came through COVID. We prepared ourselves afterwards. Our rainy day funds are at the largest level that they have been in state history. Yesterday, the report that our outdoor economy is outpacing the rest of the country. We have been tapping into that as a potential growth market too. And we celebrated the Upper Midwest's largest solar project as Minnesota moves towards more energy independence and growth in jobs. So there's a lot of things when we do these budgets that we do not know yet. Certainly the uncertainty at the federal level of what will happen with federal policies across many aspects as well as the broader economy. More of those will play out early part of next year. But as a starting point, this puts us in a good position to do a measured, responsible, bipartisan budget that continues to move Minnesota forward, continues to make us the best states for children, continues to have us be a leader in those economic sectors where we almost are without peer, whether it's healthcare sector, whether it is agriculture, whether it's some of the things that we are doing innovatively to try and make sure that we continue to be prepared for the future. So I'm grateful for the work that was done, preparing, seeing where we're at. Grateful to people of Minnesota as they put us in the position to be able to weather that storm if it should arise. But to more importantly, improving quality of life, being a top 10 state for personal incomes, longevity, all of the things that matter that you're investing in, and that's what we're here to do, and we will continue to do that. With that, I'd be glad to take some questions.
Are there programs or changes approved over the past 2 years that you'll have to reel back or whatnot to eat?
Look, I say it's disingenuous to not. We said everything. We'll take a look at everything. I think what you've seen, there were smart decisions made. I want to thank our legislative leaders who you'll hear from here shortly. We made a decision to leave a substantial amount of money on the bottom line last year to be able to talk about that. You also saw from this presentation, look, it's pretty inescapable. There's two areas that are the bulk of this growth. They make up about 76% of the budget the next time. And inside of those areas, there's two areas where most of this increased spending or the debt's coming from. That's in special education, and that's in long-term care and disability waivers. And those are really hard decisions that are going to have to be made, but those are things that we're going to have to look at. That's what's driving the spending is what we've seen, and that's historic. We talked about that last time. We talked about it coming. This has happened over decades as this growth, and you saw on the charts as it's growing. So I think we'll take a look at programs, and again, making sure that we're getting the most efficiencies out of those programs, but making sure they're things that improve the quality of life for people that citizens of Minnesota are asking for. But I don't think any of us should look past. We are going to have to all have a deep conversation about those two drivers and what do we do to ensure that we're providing, because look, all of us agree, we need to provide that quality of care. I would also note though, those two are heavily driven by federal policy, federal regulation about having to deliver those services. In the case of special ed, we are obligated to deliver that, and when that law was passed, the federal government promised us 40% of the cost. They've never delivered more than 27% of that cost. It usually hovers slightly under 20%, which means we are mandated to provide those services. We have to come up with the money to do it. The federal government has said they would do that, and they haven't. The same thing will hold true on long-term care and disability waivers. We take care of our own in Minnesota, but with that comes a cost.
The graveyard here, there's some scary stuff coming up in a couple of budgets, and we've been told that the sooner you start to address that, you have 31 months and more if you start
Was
now.
my microphone just off, Peter? Did you?
It becomes easier if you start now.
What in that last answer didn't address that? The two biggest drivers of this are special education funding and long-term care. They make up 60% of the cost. I have said everything should be on the table. We're in a position now where we are running a surplus at this time. We're one of the few states that budgets 4 years out. We have historic bottom lines. What I want to be clear about is our rainy day funds could make that look like it wasn't there, especially if we didn't honestly budget around inflation. It would be zero. This is not a rainy day. This is a over-the-horizon budget issue of growing costs in an aging population and more people accessing services, especially around autism and things that are being negotiated. So very clearly, those things are going to have to be addressed, but this is not light your hair on fire that things are there. This is a stable, balanced budget with AAA bond-rated state with some of the highest labor participation rates and growing incomes that we need to address. What does it look like in an aging population with new things coming on board? That's what I'm going to make sure a budget addresses that, and we have over the horizon. I would remind folks, that slide that's up there, by the time we get to that, that will be an entire another presidential, a different president by that time. So there's a lot of things in between there. We have the benefit of time, but we've had a task force on this, and we have put out potentials to address this in the past. But what I'm saying on this one is, this is going to be hard choices that are going to have to be made bipartisanly to try and tackle this long term.
The state have left more of the $17 billion surplus on the bottom line in anticipation of these increased costs of an aging population that you're mentioning.
What was that?
I'm saying, should the state have left more of the $17 billion surplus on the line to cover these increased costs of the aging population?
No, the public wanted them back. We sent the money back to them. We paid off our UI insurance. We paid off the stadium. We invested in education, roads and bridges, all those things. Had we not done some of those things, the revenues are less because you're not getting growth. Again, for the budgets where we would leave the next biennium with a surplus, as you saw, 6.6. We do something that most states don't do. We look over the horizon to be able to address it. And so I'm certain that those children who are getting meals in schools or the people who are getting health care that they needed to get, those were things that we wanted to invest in. Now it gives us the opportunity to look over the horizon. How do we continue early to do that? I think it's when I see people make responses to these, this is about responsible budgeting, something Minnesota's been able to do bipartisanly. I don't think you can come into a negotiation being disingenuous and saying, well, I'll do everything except this and I'll cut this off. What I have said, we're not going to compromise on values. We're going to make sure that we protect people and the things that they need, but we also are going to have an honest conversation. What does it take to make this happen, to get that proper structural balance, but also to make sure we're growing for the future so that folks in the middle class see more buying power, more access to health care, better opportunities, better jobs. Mary?
For the first time in your administration, you have a commissioner who's saying there is a projected deficit. I haven't heard you say the D word, deficit.
Yeah.
Can you specifically address now what is a projected deficit?
Yeah, you saw it up here from the commissioners. Once we do the 4 years out so that we've seen it, look, we will finish 26, 27 with a surplus. This is the years out. And I will go back to this again. 76% of the budget is in the two areas of HHS and education. The bulk of the spending in there that is increasing and outpacing inflation is disability waivers and long-term care and special education. And we can look across the spectrum, but this is the thing that you hear on the federal budget. Well, we have a national debt. Well, cut all foreign aid, and that will fix the national debt. Foreign aid is 0.1% of anything, but it's an easy one to go out and say we should quit spending money there because that would do it. Well, what is the impact of that? So what I'm just saying is that we knew this was coming. We forecast it last time over the horizon. We know there's decisions that need to be made, but I think there's several things here, and I would say this in our budget and the legislative leaders on this, we could fix that entirely and erase it if we use the rainy day funds to do it. But this is not a rainy day. That's not what those funds are for. We have time to address this structurally without negatively impacting the services that we're providing to people, but it's going to take some hard decisions.
What a big contrast it is. You had record enormous surpluses for many, many years, much of your administration. So this is a change in direction you have to take, correct?
Yeah, but the bottom line is still the same. We have to balance the budget. We've proven now, this isn't theoretical with us. We've proven 6 years that we can balance budgets, invest in those things. It just simply makes you prioritize. This is, it's not as simple as state government is like your household budget, but on a lot of things, there is an analogy to that. You have to make sure at the end of the day that you're not compromising the things that your family needs, but understanding you might have to make some choices that are there. So I actually think we did it. We did it together in 2019. We did it at a great uncertainty during COVID in a bipartisan manner. They're seasoned legislative leaders. I've had the opportunity to call a lot of our leadership, our new co-chairs in the House that are coming in on both sides. And I will just have to say, and I'm going to give great kudos to them, the sense of serving Minnesotans on this and coming together to find common ground is, I'm grateful to them to hear how they're talking about getting this together. So Tom?
You say that we're in a strong place for now, which might be true for the next 2 years, but a lot of Republican lawmakers will come out here and say, I told you so, about what they will view as a fiscal cliff we're heading toward. How would you respond to that?
Told us so what? If they would have asked us to hand back that $3.7 billion on there that would have doubled what the long-term deficit was. If you notice on here, when we give tax cuts and property tax things, we count that as spending, and that is something very different. The one thing I don't know if they come out here that we should factor into this, factor in the unknowns. They should be incredibly confident because we're being told that we'll see 4 to 6% GDP growth under the new president. I certainly want to help make that happen. I hope that's so. If that happens, that changes all of the calculus. The knee-jerk reaction to come out and say, we told you so, look, we understood that what's driving this has been out there for a decade or more, this increased growth in those two areas. Again, I would ask you that, if they come out here, a bold proposal, let's cut an entire agency and get it out. You could cut many entire agencies in their entirety and not make a dent in what that is because of where the costs are on long-term care. It's that simple.
Spending increased significantly last biennium, and when we're talking
It
about
decreased
structural,
5% this year.
we're structural imbalance, which is spending exceeds revenue.
State budget decreased 5% this year.
So how do you address a structural imbalance which would lead to the deficit if you don't cut spending when spending exceeds revenues?
That's the discussion that happens during the session.
But you say you don't want to make cuts to some.
I didn't say that. I said, no, I didn't say that. I said that you're going to do these things. Are they going to cut our long-term growth? Are they going to hurt families? Are we going to address what the biggest thing here is? If you have a family structural deficit, not buying 1 cup of coffee 1 day a month isn't going to address it. If the bigger issue is your mortgage is too high, your car payment's too high, you're not making enough money at your job. So what I'm saying is to be realistic, to come out here and say, well, you should have cut these things that you did. The things that were added, many of them haven't even kicked in yet to be a part of that. We knew that this was coming because these long-term changes in these major programs, we're an aging population. We're seeing more kids with mental health issues and autism. Those things are massively expensive, and as you saw here, by 28, 29, that is 76% of the budget. Everything else in there, transportation, DNR, corrections, public safety, all of that makes up the 24%. So what we're saying is that we have a plan here, we're responsible in this, we're in a good position, our programs are working, and we have about a 4%, well, after the revenue in there, we have a gap of about 1.7%, and we can figure that out.
Open to spending cuts in any other areas. I mean, I understand.
That's what a legislative session's for.
I understand the point that you're making in terms of long-term care. The Republicans are saying no automatic budget increases, no dramatic growth in government employees. The question would be, are you open to...
Look, I'm not going to punish the state patrol and corrections and snowplow drivers. Are they asking us not to put snowplow drivers in their counties? This is easy to say that when you throw it out there, not be specific about it. So you don't think that we should be able to make sure that we keep up with inflationary costs for our corrections officers and things like that? That's just political theater. I haven't said anything that I'm not open to hearing you negotiate and talk about that. What I'm making very clear here is that we are structurally in a sound spot over the horizon, which again, I thank Minnesotans. I'm grateful for several things. We honestly budget by adding inflation. which I'm proud of this administration put that in, and we do something most states don't do. We look over the horizon for the long term. If you were in most states, you would have seen a picture that we have a surplus, $616 million surplus, fine, nothing to worry, and go on. What I think this gives us an opportunity is, let's address it early. Don't come in, I'm not coming in here and starting and saying anything's off the table. We're saying that all of those things are on there, but what I'm being very clear is we're not gonna fix it with our budget reserves because this is not a rainy day, and we're not gonna fix it by punishing state employees who are providing services to folks, but we can have an honest conversation. I think it puts Minnesota in a great spot. And again, there's time. There's time on this. This is not today. This is an entire presidential administration away when this kicks in, and there's going to be a lot of things federally that impact us. And if this works the way it says, we're going to see massive economic growth. We're going to see a reduction in the federal deficit. We're going to see job growth. We're going to see energy prices go down. If those things all happen from the federal government, those are disappeared immediately. So those are the things, the unknowns. What I think it behooves us is to be responsible, to be measured, to propose things that tackle this over the long haul. You don't have to fix it all at once. You don't pay your mortgage off in a day. You pay it off over time in things that you can handle, and I think that's the way to approach this.
Autism twice as examples of an area where demand is increasing for services, but there's been reports and concern that at least some of that explosive growth has been driven by fraud. So can you respond to what your administration, the status of that, what your administration is doing about it?
Look, those things that are in there, so as far as autism being people not claiming they have autism,
Autism services from the state.
they have grown massively.
Right, but there's been reports and concerns that there's been fraud.
That we always investigate it and those people go to jail.
Are you
That won't
investigating
change.
it right now in your administration, in the state?
I always, they're doing those things, yeah. That's part of it. If someone's breaking the law, then we go after them.
All right.
So,
Governor, just to be clear, you're not saying any spending cuts or tax increases should be off the table.
right. I think you have to start the legislative session on a balance on that. This is what this is meant to be, and I want to thank the folks, the nonpartisan staff that presents this. I received this information this morning, just like everybody else did. We had a pretty good idea over the months where this is going. Again, if you go back and look at the last time we did this, we anticipated that. I think it's one of the reasons we said, let's leave that money on the bottom line. These long-term costs are continuing to grow in an aging population. And so I think when you start the legislative session, we will come in there. We will level set on this. You got to be honest about where the spending's at. You got to be honest about what's driving the factors to make it happen. And then you come in and you negotiate how to make that work. So again, I would go back to what Commissioner Campbell said, is we have the luxury of time in this case. And this is what this legislative session should be focused on. Measured, focused on improving the lives of Minnesotans, start tackling this issue over the horizon, and be responsible with what we have there on the bottom line that does give us some flexibility to make those changes now. I think that's good. So look forward to it. It's going to be an exciting legislative session, I think. We're looking forward to those leaders. I think they're coming up here now. They'll be able to give you a little better idea. This is how the process is supposed to work, and I think this sets us up. And again, those factors that Minnesota's economy, and you saw that out there, is solid, from unemployment to labor participation rates to real wage growth to some of the innovation we're seeing. All of those things bode well. We want to make sure we stay in a positive on all of that. So thank you for that, and I think I'll turn it over to legislative leaders.
Can you address Brian Thompson's?
Oh, yeah, thank you on this. First of all, our deep condolences to the Thompson family. We had the tragedy of Brian Thompson's apparent murder in New York City this morning. Sending our thoughts to the family, our thoughts to the United Healthcare family that's out there, and then our state law enforcement and BCA are providing whatever they can do if there's a part to be able to be helpful in that. They've already been contacted. I know they're working with their federal partners, but yeah, tragic situation, and as we hear more information, we'll certainly make sure we get it out.
Have you met with him before?
Thank you. I have. I knew Brian. Tragic, and as I said, some of it's still preliminary on this, but figure out what was behind this and follow through, making sure someone's brought to justice, but just our deepest condolences to the family. Horrible tragedy. With that, I think I'll turn it over to leadership.